So Prabhupada's picture was on the front with the title reading, Srimad Bhagavatam, India's Message of Peace and Goodwill. 60 volumes of elaborate English version by Tridandi Goswami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, carried by the Sindhi Steam Navigation Company Limited, Bombay, all over the world for scientific knowledge of God. So that was the heading. And then, as Prabhupada relaxed behind his desk, I read out the body of the text to him. It says, the sufferings of the entire human society can at once be brought under control simply by individual practice of Bhakti Yoga, a simple and easy process of chanting the holy name of God. Every country, every nation, and every community throughout the world has some conception of the holy name of God, and as such either the Hindus, the Mohammedans, or the Christians, everyone can easily chant the holy name of God in a meditative mood, and that will bring about the required peace and goodwill in the present problematic human society. Any inquiry in this connection will be gladly answered by Sri Swamiji. The Hindus generally chant the holy name of God in 16 chain of transcendental sound, composed of 32 alphabets, as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and the Puranas recommend the chanting of the above-mentioned 16 holy names at a stretch, and also Lord Sri Chaitanya, whose cult of chanting the holy name of God gave special importance on these transcendental sounds. In this age of Kali, or the age of hate, hypocrisy, corruption, and quarrel, the only remedial measure is that every man should chant the holy name of the Lord, both individually and collectively. Then it went on to give the English translations of the 8 prayers written by Lord Chaitanya in glorification of the holy name, and it ended with some highly complimentary reviews of Srila Prabhupada's translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was it. That was Prabhupada's little flyer, his little leaflet that he was going to hand out to people when he arrived in America. So a little closer inspection of that. Just the header itself is a declaration of Srila Prabhupada, what he was all about. It's very interesting. He says, first of all, he's declaring the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the message. It's all in that one book. And he labels it as India's message of peace and goodwill. So, by studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, that will be the result, that one will develop goodwill towards all living entities and become peaceful within one's own heart. And Prabhupada says there, 60 volumes of elaborate English version. So when Prabhupada set sail from India, he just completed the 3rd volume of the 1st canto. There's another 11 cantos to go, and he was planning 60 volumes. But when he left, he only had 3 volumes, and he had, I think, about 200 sets of those 3 volumes loaded on the ship in Cochin as it set sail. But Prabhupada was already advertising 60 volumes. So, you know, that's very typical of Srila Prabhupada. He was not a small thinker. He was very bold. He was, you know, very broad. And he was very, very ambitious about what he was doing. So he was already advertising as soon as he arrived 60 volumes. He was 70 years old, yeah, and he still had this optimism that he was going to finish the entire Srimad Bhagavatam and distribute it. And then he says, carried by the Sindhi Steamship Company all over the world. And he got a free ticket to New York. That was it, but he was already advertising that he was going all over the world. And then for scientific knowledge of God. So again, that was very deliberate. Scientific knowledge of God, Prabhupada knew very well in the mid-60s. He was coming into an atmosphere where science and religion were completely, you know, opposed. considered to be completely separate disciplines. Science is the real knowledge, and religion is, you know, just some sentiment. Even if you think favorably of it, it's just some kind of fairy tales and morality and things that have been invented just to encourage us to be nice people. Yeah, but science and religion together, no way. But Prabhupada was advertising, you know, he was going there very deliberately to advertise that he had, or he could give, scientific knowledge of God. And, you know, just as an example, in 1966 in April, Prabhupada was just getting set up in New York there, and Time magazine, which of course was probably the most famous and, well, most read of all the news magazines in the world, it was coming out every week. They ran one issue. On the cover, it had 3 words, that was it. God is dead. That was one of the April editions in New York. So that's what Prabhupada was coming into, and he was there deliberately challenging, advertising that I'm giving scientific knowledge of God. So he wasn't doing that whimsically or sentimentally. He actually felt that he had the knowledge, or the knowledge was there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he could show scientifically that God exists. And of course, you know, as soon as Prabhupada started his preaching work in 26 2nd Avenue, and then they went out chanting in Tompkins Square Park, then the Village Other, which was one of the popular newspapers in New York at that time, they carried that article that where everybody else is declaring that God is dead, the Swamiji has come to tell us that he's very much alive in, you know, the Lower East Village of New York, like that. So right from the very beginning, Prabhupada was very clear about what he was about. There was no sentiment, you know, there was no, you know, just vagueness about Prabhupada's understanding of spirituality and God. It's very, very clear. And if you followed the process that he was teaching, you could understand it. That was his message. So then, in the body of the text, then Prabhupada says there that just by chanting the holy names of God, all the problems of the world can be solved. So that also, it sounds very, you know, fundamentalist, simplistic. Oh yeah, right, you just chant this one mantra, you know, or some names of God, and that will solve all your problems. Not only all one's individual problems, but all the problems in the whole world. So let's, you know, look at the whole world, what was going on, you know, that he came right into, you know, an American public that was, you know, rioting on the streets against the Vietnam War. You know, that's what Prabhupada came into. There's wars going on all over the planet. There's social problems, there's political problems, there's economic problems. I mean, the world is a very, very complex place. And things have not improved, you know. Since then, they've been going on and getting worse. You know, there's endless wars always going on, and there's always famines and droughts. There's economic crises, you know, people are going bankrupt, slitting their throats, jumping out the windows, blowing up, you know, now it's the anniversary of the twin, you know, towers there in New York, getting blown up. These things are always going on. So Prabhupada was saying you can solve all those problems just by chanting Hare Krishna. It sounds very simplistic and very fundamentalist, but actually it's a fact. And the reason why it's a fact is because Prabhupada knew that any external effort that we make, any adjustment that we try to make, any planning commission, economic forum, you know, United Nations, this, that, and the other, political adjustments, that will not solve the problem. The problems continue, just like now. They're, you know, having their, what they call the Middle East Spring, right? They're throwing out all their governments. Tunisia was the first, and then Egypt, and now Libya, and, you know, there's so many things going on. People are dying for it. Oh, you know, we want to be free, we want to throw off the shackles of the dictators, and then things will be all right. No, it won't. It's just the same. Things will just continue on in the way that they've always continued on. You get rid of one dictator, another one will take his place. That's all. Either, you know, an individual or a collective. But the same business will continue on. So, how to actually, you know, improve things? Everybody's trying to find a way of improvement, but they're all thinking that they'll do that just by some economic adjustments. You know, somehow or another, you know, the free market system and consumerism and so many things. But where is the improvement? There is no improvement. Everybody's just as disturbed now as they were 50 years ago. So Prabhupada came into the middle of that with an actual method for genuine improvement and for clearing up all these problems. Because there'll always be some things going on, you know, you always have to make various adjustments. But essentially Prabhupada knew that all of these problems are being caused by one particular problem, and that is the condition of the heart of each individual. What we do externally is only an extension or a reflection of what we are internally. If we're disturbed internally, we'll cause a disturbance externally, that's all. And if we're peaceful internally, then we'll create a peaceful situation externally. So internally is where the improvement has to take place. You'll never make any improvement in anything as long as people remain disturbed in their own hearts, disturbed by ignorance of who they really are and ignorance of what the real purpose in life is. Because people don't know how to become actually happy, then they're concocting and creating so many different arrangements, very elaborate arrangements. You know, this whole civilization is just a very elaborate arrangement to increase one's happiness or one's gratification. Or, I mean, you know, we've been driving around England now. We set off from London, we went up to Scunthorpe, we went up to Newcastle, we went up to Glasgow, we came down to Manchester and Birmingham and Coventry and Leicester. Now we're here, so we're doing the complete circuit. So we've seen one big highway after another. And I was thinking the other day that, you know, 150 years ago, where were the highways? There was a few tracks here and there. People mainly, you know, stayed in their own areas. And now we built, in just 100 years, we built this incredible complex